You know, it is amazing all the things that you can find on YouTube. For example, I stumbled across a video that shows 4 people going slowly insane over a period of 100 minutes. And unfortunately, I was one of the 4. I still had fun though. Said insanity was caused by a creepypasta called Clockwork, Your Time Is Up. And it was bad. It's not as bad as My Immortal, but it is as bad as Sonic EXE Round 2. However, this story crosses lines that the other 2 never even approached. My Immortal wishes that it could be this repulsive. This is the Sallow of creepypastas, the Irreversible of creepypastas, the Serbian film of creepypastas. In short, this story is messed up. You have been warned. I found this story on a place that's even more of a breeding ground for stupidity than the creepypasta wiki, Wattpad, so early signs already are not good. Let's get ready to be horrified in ways that the author didn't intend. This is Clockwork, Your Time Is Up. Actually, before I tell you about Clockwork, I have to talk to you about Jeff the Killer. Except for Slenderman and maybe Ben, Jeff the Killer is the single most popular creepypasta of all time. Not only has this image here been popular around the internet for a long time, and has been parodied in countless and hilarious ways, this story has become sort of the figurehead of creepypastas. This story has affected how creepypastas are written, what they're about, which ones get popular. Trying to imagine creepypastas without Jeff the Killer is like imagining the history of American film without the Wizard of Oz. It was industry changing. It has its own mythology, multiple spin-offs, and a very, very large following. It should also come to no surprise to you to learn that Jeff the Killer sucks. It's poorly written, generic, cliched, stupid, and not scary in the least. Jeff the Killer is one of the least inspired creepypastas ever. The original story was bad on its own, but the spin-offs are all worse. Homicidal Liu and Jane the Killer both give Jeff a run for his money, and the Jeff the Killer wiki was full of some of the worst creepypastas ever made before it was hacked by kittens. Not to mention all the ripoffs such as Eyeless Jack, Laughing Jack, Tiki Toby, Hoodie and Masky, and of course, Clockwork. Just like how virtually all bad gaming pastas can be traced back to Sonic EXE, almost all of the other bad pastas take cues from Jeff the Killer. The net negative that has resulted from this story might make it the single worst creepypasta ever made. This, and all that associate with it, are stupidity incarnate. When it comes to creepypastas, the person who wrote the original Jeff the Killer has done so much damage that they should be public enemy number 1. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, Clockwork. Actually, Clockwork is much, much worse than Jeff the Killer. Like Jeff the Killer, one huge problem with our main character Natalie is that we don't know thing one about her. I can't tell you anything about her personality. Nothing. Sonic.exe is a more developed character. Freaking Ebony Darkness Dementia Raven Way has more of a character than Natalie. That character is the worst ever, but the point still stands. This links to the sort of fanficky nature of these kinds of stories. When you get right down to it, most of these stories boil down to very, very morbid revenge fantasies for people who have been bullied. They're actually very easy to slip into if you just happen to have actual fantasies about gouging out the eyes of people that you don't like. And oh, what people this story provides. Clockwork, Your Time Is Up does not just push the envelope in terms of bad taste. It bursts out of the envelope and stabs the mailman to death. It has a cruel and abusive father who beats up his children throughout their entire childhoods. He is so much of a stereotype of an abusive father that is almost cartoony. This is the father from Blown Away right here. But that's not the real reason why this story is so notorious. The real reason why is Natalie's older brother, Lucas. At the age of 14, Lucas sexually abuses 13-year-old Natalie and continues to do so for 4 years. Look, sexual abuse is one of the worst things that one human can do to another, especially in cases of incest and cases involving children. This story is an intersection of all 3. But I feel like this subject could have been used in a less offensive way. The reason why films like 12 Years a Slave, The Exorcist, and Texas Chainsaw Massacre were not really given too much flack for their unbelievably dark themes is that there was a reason for them. While unpleasant, these themes contributed to the story. Clockwork, on the other hand, is very, very different. Here, the rape is just a means to an end. It is just used as a way to justify his terrible, gruesome murder at the end of the story. It has no use other than just being a plot device. Not only is this incredibly uncomfortable, it is actually pretty insulting to actual victims of sexual abuse. The fact that it is used in this way shows how lightly the author really takes it, and how little weight they give it in their story. I mean, even The Passion had the excuse of being a retelling of actual events. If Mel Gibson just made it all up, I would have panned it too. But it speaks volumes about how incompetently this story is written, that his murder is so brutal that I actually ended up feeling a little sorry for him by the end. That's something that I never, ever, ever want to experience in my life. While we're on the subject, let's also talk about the extreme violence in this story. I never really got the term torture porn until I read this story. Clockwork doesn't just have violence, it revels in it. It is beyond over the top. It goes right past pointless and barrels into ridiculousness. For example, Natalie uses a post as a rolling pin on one of her victims until all of his organs pop out of his mouth. If Tom and Jerry had blood and gore but still wasn't medically accurate, it would be this. And it's not scary. If I wasn't told otherwise, I would think that this was supposed to be humorously over the top, sort of like You're Next, but this story plays it straight. It becomes a cartoon very, very quickly. Sadly enough, this type of stuff is not uncommon in creepypastas. Stories like Crybaby Lane, Laughing Jack, and Squidward's Suicide all use violence in a very similar way. The final form of Natalie Clockwork would also seem exceptionally ridiculous. She has a stitched smile, one eye that is bright green, and a clock shoved into the other socket. That's about as stupid as burning off your eyelids and carving a smile into your face. Oh wait! Yeah, this killer does not stand out. Also not uncommon is the fact that this story has pretty much no plot. There isn't really a beginning, middle, and end. Things just sort of happens. What I'm saying is that there is basically nothing outside of the brother rapist that separates this awful serial killer story from all the other awful serial killer stories that have plagued the internet ever since the release of Jeff the Killer. Jeff the Killer sucked, but at least he had the distinction of sucking in a way that hasn't been repeated dozens of times beforehand. In fact, the only thing that really does separate this story from all the others might actually also be the most infuriating thing about it. And that is saying something. Yes, at least to me, this is a little more anger-inducing than the child rape. You might have noticed that I have given you exactly 0 reason why it is called Clockwork. That's because there is absolutely 0 reason for it to be called Clockwork. The motif of time is so forced that it is comical. There is this sentence where she talks about all the problems that time has caused her. Keep in mind, all of her problems can be led to her family being horrible to her. I have no idea where any of this came from. And then there is this line. It's a viscous circle. A viscous circle. That is incredible. That is right up there with all the other classic horror quotes. The dead are not quiet in Hill House. That thing upstairs isn't my daughter. I want to play a game. Before you die, you see the ring. And time is a viscous circle. Not to mention it's just flat out wrong. Time is not a viscous circle, nor is it a vicious cycle, which is what I assume they actually meant. It just moves forward. Time isn't even really a force. Is this girl actually seriously complaining about time moving at the rate of 1 second per second? And it all leads to her cutting out her eye and shoving a pocket watch into the socket. That is stupid enough on its own, but it becomes so much more so considering that time has not had any presence, nor has the watch. Okay, how about this? Just hear me out. What if she always had that pocket watch? What if she carried it around with her all the time? What if she noticed that the abuse came at the same time every night? What if she made it so that she kills her brother at that exact time? Maybe she's constantly looking at the clocks at school, dreading the time where she had to go home. What if she had found out that she had a disease that would kill her in a given time? What if, at the brink of insanity, she found out that her time was literally running out? What if she tied all of her victims down, told them that they would have to die at a certain time, and show them a countdown? Little things like this would have made the time symbolism so much less ham-fisted, that's for sure. The story wouldn't be good, but it wouldn't be so bad. There's actually a word for something that thinks it has deep meaning but is really just going through the motions. That word is pretentious. Clockwork, Your Time Is Up is one of those creepypastas that's hard to even really talk about. What is there to say about something this uninspired? What is there to say about something this draining? I am very glad that this is not as popular as some of the other terrible creepypastas out there. But still, thank you Maddie Sensei 666 for inviting me on your show. I had fun and hope to make more appearances in the future. And I'll see all of you at a later time.